Welcome all. Come, friends, gather round. If you've ears to hear, the model winds have drawn full near. The hype ran loud, the wait ran long. Now hark the newborn's cautious song. Beware the laggard roll, my friends, the changeling weak, the model's bends. Beware the murk where rumors creep, and hold your prompts but not your sleep. 'Twas rollout Brill, our hero 5, stepped forth alone through Plus's hive. Then Otto came, fast, fleet, light. 2 thinkers, 1 mini, 1 full alight. He wandered first a single lane, then friends rejoined the model train. The picker flickered, slots grew wide, a slow unfurl to every side. He forged swift apps, one-shot UIs, Kanban boards and sprite-born skies. He tuned the voice that writers woo and kept it steady, clear, and true. He spelunked concepts caverns deep for researchers and watchful keep. He combed graphs tangled, knotted, dense, and set their edges straight with sense. He parsed the niche, cold case apart, planned runways with a founder's heart. Now we lift Vorpal prompts on cue. We share what's worked and maybe true. This this is the day.
Huzzah, bravo. Great.
This is the Daily AI Show. It is Friday, August 15th. I'm Beth, and joining me in the studio today are Andy, Jyunmi, Karl, and we're not sure about Brian. He's off in here, so maybe he'll jump in. All right.
So for those who don't have a natural ear for Elizabethan poetry, can you just give a quick translation about what the show is today?
Today is GPT-5 use cases. We are all going to be sharing use cases that either we have done with GPT-5 or ones that we've found that other people have done. There is a lot, as it's not Elizabethan, it's Lewis Carroll, it's Jabberwock, but it may sound a little bit Elizabethan. There's a lot that's happened in GPT-5 since it rolled out last week. So we'll talk a little bit about what happened in between. We started with great disappointment, then and then it turned out that the auto switcher was broken on the day that they rolled it out, which they should have said on the day that they rolled it out, because that's a first impression. But then Plus got slightly more. Sam and OpenAI did an AMA on Reddit with lots of information, and slowly the other models dripped out. So currently I have where is it? I have GPT-5 Auto. I have Plus account. GPT-5 Auto, Fast, Thinking Mini, Thinking. They have come out and said that Plus users have 3,000 thinking interactions a week. And Jyunmi will let us know if he blew his yesterday. And then under legacy models, which you have to turn on in your settings, I have GPT-4o, 4.1, 0.3, and 0.4 mini, and I don't know if those usages have changed. I don't know if they've said that. Does everyone else, I think Andy and Jyunmi also have Plus? Do you have all those models that I just said?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And Karl has every possible thing that could be offered for the actual
pro. He's a pro. We're like amateurs hour here.
Karl, do you have more than just pro? Like, you have pro, but you have do you have more than what we have?
I don't think so. Like, I think I have the pro version, and then I think everyone got the legacy models, 4.0, 4.1, 4.5, 03, 04 mini.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's where it is. Andy, do you have something you want to share,
Yeah,
which could be a clarification or more info or a
Yeah.
demo?
And I'll just say that, your intro made it sound like, OpenAI had redeemed itself fully, and that GPT-5, now emerged into the world as, a really competent alternative to other models. Well, that's not the full story. There are many, many commentators who are just, poo-pooing this and basically saying that OpenAI's reputation for being at the front edge of the frontier models, with their long-awaited and a much heralded release of GPT-5, has basically stumbled and fallen flat on their face. And many are saying that, but I have a kind of a mixed review of it. However, I'll say that the first thing that I would have shared was that I basically vibe code in Lovable, and I've been working on a fairly complicated app. This is not a simple MVP app. It's a full-featured application that eventually will be moved to a production platform. And I was offered, as soon as ChatGPT-5 came out, I was offered the option of switching over to ChatGPT-5 as my coding agent within Lovable. And for the first couple of days, I was using that, and I was very pleased that it analyzed my entire code base. It came up with a really coherent plan about how to, move it closer to the production state, correcting, certain deficiencies in the various components of that stack. And I started working with it on that. And then it disappointed me by making the same kinds of errors that caused me to shift from using just Lovable's agent that provides both chat and non-coding and also coding agentic services in your Lovable environment. I had to shift to using Gemini 2.5 Pro as a guide to instruct Lovable on how to do it, rather than letting Lovable go forward and make changes that caused cascades of problems. Well, I thought GPT-5 was going to solve all that. It didn't. It started doing the same kinds of thing. And I'm back to using Gemini 2.5 Pro to evaluate everything that I ask Lovable's agent to propose first without acting. And generally speaking, Gemini rarely says, yes, go forward with that. That's a perfect example, although it sometimes does. But today I launched Lovable, and GPT-5 is gone. It is not there anymore. And I asked the agent, wait, just yesterday, I had the option of selecting GPT-5 in the chat. Now, one of two things is possible. You've either standardized on always ChatGPT-5, which seems improbable because it's a multi-agent architecture, or it's gone and said, I can't comment on what the platform is. I don't really have information about that. You'll have to contact support. So that's just a red flag for me about ChatGPT-5 and what it's doing to the many, many thousands and thousands of users of Lovable.dev, which is a really popular platform. Okay, but I do have some things that I have been working with ChatGPT-5 on in the ChatGPT interface that I can share. But since I talked so long on that, I don't want to take the full front end of this thing. So let me come back to that, and I'll demonstrate some things that I worked with in ChatGPT-5 that are similar, like vibe coding, development steps using ChatGPT-5 within the OpenAI environment. But somebody else go show something.
Okay, and that's a good point. I have two things that I coded that I can show. Jyunmi, what do you have?
An excitement to see what you created, because I actually ran into some of the same problems that Andy did. I was having a great experience with GPT-5, and I won't. I can save this for later, really, if we want to go into the nitty gritty. But essentially, I had to reevaluate my usage process for GPT-5. And this is actually a couple of things that I've heard from other people in the AI space. Is what it boils down to is GPT-5 really wants you to go and become or go back to prompt engineering. It likes large prompts. It likes very structured prompts. It likes you to tell you that everything that you want beforehand. What I'm running into is I've tended to lean on the ask me questions, interview me. When you figure something out, ask more questions. What about this? What are your insights on this? This back and forth conversation. The conversation part just got me deeper and deeper into the weeds. I didn't actually end up with getting a result. Now, I tended to lean on O3, all reasoning models. I lived in that space. I was one of those 7% plus users who used it heavily. But the results I got using those methods where we were starting to move away from prompt engineering and go to like the concepts of those context engineering. And it's more about how you've set up all the context vectors and all those kinds of things. And I leaned more on the conversational side because I got more back and forth and we revealed more things, especially if I didn't know exactly what I wanted, right? But when I tried that method with ChatGPT or GPT-5, I did get into this very clean conversation of going back and forth and back and forth. And I don't know if it was a limit of the context window, which I don't think it was, because I don't believe the conversations went longer than I normally get with O3. And since GPT-5 is supposed to have a much larger context window, I figured we could go for a longer conversation. But what the kinds of things that I saw a lot of was if I ever worked into the canvas, there'd be a certain point in the conversation, and then it would forget that I had a canvas full of the information and then rewrite over my canvas. And I'm like, okay, you need to go back. And then it would reconstruct. It wouldn't just go back and reload that file. Also, maybe it's just me, but the issues that I had with the length of file retention. Normally, I'd have a good hour or more to go back and, like, I set up my tabs. I go think about it, and I'm going to go do something and come back. Then I could download the file. It seemed to be just mere minutes.
Yeah, it makes me stay in the work that I did with GPT-5 yesterday. It makes me stay at my desk because the code interpreter session expires just like, within minutes after it delivers
exactly. So I think there's a lot more. There might not necessarily be a lot more problems, but it's like shifting gears, going from like third to first, and you have to be prepared for it. So I'm glad there's identifications of having the GPT-5 prompting guides. I'm glad that came out. I'm so glad that Brian showed us the optimizer. That's been a huge help over the last day in terms of optimizing and what the structure it's really looking for in the prompts. But like other people have said online, it really is you got to dust off your prompt engineer skills and go and start doing more structured prompts. I guess the term is, I can't be lazy and just have a conversation with it anymore. I need to go back to the old ways where when we first got started out and needed to use Markdown and break everything out and then go from there. So
let me just say that I'm shifting away from prompting. Sorry, back to the issue of expiring code interpreter sessions. Mm-hmm. That's probably related to a theory that's out there that OpenAI's delivery of GPT-5 and the new structure with a router and then eliminating all the other models is a way for them to push you towards less expensive models if you're not really calling upon, the actual reasoning and thinking part of it in order to reduce their costs. Well, that's consistent with the idea that, hey, we're going to put a really short timer on the code interpreter session because we don't want to be burning art, systems while you're, off doing something else. So we're going to expire it really quickly. You're going to need to download it right away. We're not going to tell you that that's the case. But ironically, that actually caused me to run the same very long inference and coding session 3 different times to get the download, because every time I get called away and then I'd come back and it had produced the download file again, but then now it couldn't be downloaded because the code interpreter session expired. So I had to run it 3 times with no change. And that really burned a lot of tokens, huge number of tokens. And so it's backfiring, I think, on them. But that's an interesting, theory out there that, what's really happening here is that OpenAI is trying to reduce their expenses. And that's why this major change from multiple model selections to a single one that lets them control what level of compute you apply. And then they had to revert because people didn't like that.
Right. And I'd love to know from Karl. Karl, have you experienced these same kinds of things, or do you not use your ChatGPT in the same way?
I've never had any of these issues because I do some of this. Granted, again, I'm on Pro, so I I don't have any, like, everything is literally unlimited. All the memory I've been available to, so I think, like, I could feel for you, but I can't experience the exact same
right
thing.
But see, I think that experience does lend to the hypothesis that this might be a business move. Like you said, Andy, reduce the costs, push power users, I guess, to pay for Pro when they run into these kinds of hurdles. Either that or it's a training session where it's trying to train your behavior.
I don't even use fast mode at all. Like, I am literally living in thinking, and then uses in Pro. I don't, mind you, when I see 3,000 uses of thinking, like, I'm thinking, is, for most people, wouldn't that be enough, or are you burning through that? I don't know. So yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I haven't, not for this week.
Oh yeah. I was like 3,000. I was like,
yeah. Well, I thought that was a decent bump. I understand that as they increase, they'll have more costs, but then I don't know, with as much money you're taking in, does that mean you're already factoring out that you don't have that level of runway and you have to do these cost-cutting features? Could you? I think there are other ways, but of course, we from the outside don't know what the internal mechanisms are and what their actual runway is, and what they have, or what they're looking forward to, or need the compute for, or see the expectation. So I'm not exactly sure if they have
with 700 million viewers, sending queries into them, they have to do something to rationalize it.
Sure. And I guess maybe they're just waiting for the time till they can get more hardware and more data center and more power.
Stargate. That's why they need Stargate. That's why they have Stargate and all that stuff. They kind of need
as another year, man. As another year, they can't rely on that. Sorry, go ahead, Beth.
The model switcher is something that they demoed way before GPT-5. That was something that showed up in my dropdown. I feel like GPT-4, but definitely, if not that, then 4.0. And I was asked whether I was willing to opt in to something that would pick my model. And I think I said yes, and then that thing disappeared for a little while longer. So it isn't something new that they created for GPT-5. And there's been speculation that at times when ChatGPT gets a little funky, there's a switch on the back end that's been moved in. I think what they anticipated was that users would be delighted. Yay, I don't have to pick the model. So now we're going to tell you that we're doing a model switcher, which we didn't think was going to be a big deal because it's been working on the back end potentially for a while. Now, I don't know.
I think it comes to
one note on that though.
issue.
Like I think it depends on who the audience is. Because so I was sitting in the movie theater with my buddy, and he's like, you probably already know this, but he was showing me how because he's a free user, so he doesn't pay for it. And he's not in the AI space at all. So he's like, Karl, you got to check this out. I can do this, and I can do this. And I'm just sitting there. I'm not saying anything. I'm like, that's awesome. And he's like, yeah, it's so much better now. Like, yes. I can do this. And I'm like, I just listening to him. And then I'm sitting, that's who this was for. Yes. That was literally who this was for. And that is the response that you're going to get. And that's those, what is it? Like, isn't it only 7% that are power users? You have everybody else that's like a free or the people who pay but don't really use anything else. That's the difference that they want. And that's what I thought. It's like, whatever, when this launched, it's your expectation depending on how it went. So it's like, oh, this doesn't work for me, or this doesn't do what I normally have done, versus this is an amazing thing. It's gotten so much better. That was the response. That's like, I was like, oh, I think that's what it is. Right. So the expectations of both it depends on, if you found it amazing or if you found, hey, I have to redo everything I'm doing.
Yeah. I know it might sound like that we're all like coming down on GPT-5, but that is for our use case for sure, and who we are as users and what we're trying to do. Right. Andy's trying to build a full shippable app. I'm trying to use a model that was designed to be interacted in a completely different way. I didn't know it at the time, but that's clarification there. And like what Chad is saying is it and what you're saying is, Karl, is it's definitely for the vast majority of those users, because they definitely have a B2C model. They're definitely trying to create that platform and that environment for the average user to integrate into.
And this is where I thought a couple months ago, I thought, you better allow the power users like us to be able to pick what we're using in a very specific way, because we're used to that. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I hope you don't have a switcher that just is automatic. Like, the worst thing would have been just GPT-5. There's nothing there, and it kind of does it. So I'm like, that's a mistake, because, well, for my very selfish reason, I'm like, I use very specific things. I even use 4.1 for very specific use cases. And I'm like, I kind of like using 4.1. I'm mostly on 0.3, but I like switching to 4.0 for certain quick things. I know what I'm doing in there. So I hope they don't. And they did. And for all the power users, you're pissed unless you're paying $200 a month. And even those who are paying $200 didn't know that you had to turn on the legacy mode to get everything back. So I think it's like, that was, to me, I was like, why would you? I didn't understand why you would do that. But for the other side, they're like, I didn't even know that there's 0.3, or if I did, I didn't use it, or hey, it must be the lesser version because 4 is better than 3, right? So something like that. So, but I will say though, when I was listening to Nate Jones, when I was listening to Peter Shiano, when I saw the guides that came out based on the new, very spec heavy, you have to be very, very specific. You have to actually have it to validate its plans. All these different things from OpenAI's prompting guide. When I reformatted a lot of the stuff that I would do for clients, and then put it back in, the output I got was, I felt like I got the better use of the technology. Like it felt way better than the outputs that I got. So funny thing, when for client work, I am not into the conversational method. I'm still leveraging like very structured outputs, just because it's so much easier for me, because I have like a prompting library broken down by client. So it's like, oh, this made everything a lot easier, because I just rejigged a lot of the stuff and then went back at it. And they're like, this is amazing. Like, whether it's a custom GPT or whatever, anything that we use OpenAI for, it's still and whether it's Claude, I still use that. Gemini, I use that, just because I can go through it without having to do conversations. And I think that's more for the client work, that makes it a lot easier. For me, when I go through thinking, just if you have a chance, go listen to Nate Jones break it down, because it's that conversation, it does overperform. So it completes it. And if you don't give the right context, if you don't have it think through, if you don't, outline, hey, don't use web browsing, don't use Python, use Python, it will do stuff that you're like, oh, it's like this it's even supercharged even more, but you have to direct it differently, or kind of go back, like you said, go back to kind of our roots, but be more specific about it.
So they do have a prompt optimizer. We talked about it on a previous show, but let's actually just share at least what the screen will look like when you get there. Yes, I'm hoping that this will work. Excellent. Yay. Did it? Are you seeing it? Yes. So this is, if you search Chat GPT, GPT-5 prompt optimizer, you'll come to this screen. The original prompt that you put in, you will put you'll put the prompt that you created, and then it will optimize, right? So it will, like if I put something in here that says, help me code a game, and I optimize this is going to give me a prompt that I can actually use that would be more, would be fuller. Yes, we're in talking about overthinking. Here we go. And so this is giving me a more well thought out prompt. This is very much like, so I'm going to stop sharing. This is very much like Claude Console, where you could put in the prompt that you have and then ask it to make it better, optimize that. So this is one of those pieces there. And I do have a game to show. So let me share that to start, and then we'll, Karl, if you have something to share, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Andy. And I'm going to get out of that prompt optimizer. All right. So I have, a working game. This was inspired by someone's post on X, but it is Chicken Invaders Banana Edition, because that Chicken Banana song has lived in my head since I first heard it. So this was a one-shot, give me a Chicken Invaders game, but make the bullets that it shoots bananas. And this, It's not gonna, let's see. I'm not good at it.
That's great.
Yeah. So, hey, then there is a, yeah, let's just kill me. There is a boss chicken that comes after I do the levels here. The levels speed up. I tried a couple other things with it. Some worked, some didn't. It did one shot of a functioning game. I then maybe did 5 prompts after to refine some things. And I would say this was very successful. It did take a while. It probably was coding for at least 45 minutes, maybe a half an hour. And this was late on East Coast time. So I was doing this after midnight. Chicken Turd Asteroids is better.
Now, I have a question,
yes.
Beth. You know,
Yes.
once you've finished building that game, does the game have persistence? Meaning, how do you can you download it and run it in an HTML browser? How do you how is this not just a wasted generation? Is it something that you can actually use on a continuing basis?
Yes, the game itself is written entirely in an HTML page, so I could go and install it, and it would persist.
Download the file and keep your game file, and then you just click on that HTML file, and it'll launch in the browser.
It does not have a persistence, so like I don't have a leaderboard, right? Which would all be me. Yeah, right. So even when I play badly, I'm still the first. So yes, it can persist.
You can download the HTML file, which is I've done that myself in ChatGPT-5 with a little mini app that I'll demonstrate later.
Right. And so that was my first thing of trying to do that. I will also demo something that I did that was a little more useful for the kinds of things that I do. This was just like, hey, did you know you could one-shot a working Chicken Invaders game? And apparently, yes, you can. Okay. Karl, what do you have?
I think the best example that I had was really I forgot where I put it, but it's using the connector, because I don't know if people use that as much, but the most difficult thing that nothing has been able to do was instruction for a specific client, instruction using connector, go to SharePoint, analyze 4 of the files in there, which are PDFs, and then analyze each one, compare it to a CSV in there, which has thousands of records, and then essentially do a comparison to analyze discrepancies. Now, it can do it if there's only a CSV in there and there's only a one statement, but if there's 4 or 5, it would not be able to do it. And now it was able to do it. Like double checking, it's like, okay, that's 100% accurate. And I ran it multiple times. So essentially for the client, what we used to be, so the manual process was take a PDF statement, go to your register list of 1,000 invoices and manually look at it, which took hours if there's 7 or 8 invoices per week. And that would be like the whole day, if not more. Then the next thing that we built was O3 drag drop register list, drag drop PDF, and then have O3 run it. Okay, that works. So that cuts your time. And then we have a prompt that works there. But the next step is, we can put it into their SharePoint and then use a connector and have it do 1 at a time. Not 1 at a time, like 5 at a time. Well, we went from 8-10 hours a week to now maybe an hour, hour and a half a week, to now less than 20 minutes a week. But the next step after that is to test out the scheduling. So essentially, if they drag drop new stuff and have it run, we're talking less than 5 minutes. So we're cutting from 10 hours to now 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes, just to double check, do some spot checks. But like, that was kind of, that's what GPT-5 allowed us to do, is to do it that way. Agent mode doesn't have the capabilities of 5 that will boost, that I can't rely on it necessarily, but we're close. So that would be the use of the connectors, which opens the door to so many different things for different people, because if you have files and if it can do the analysis in said files, it's just open. So I have to go back to some other clients for some different work, because I don't, it works so much better with the connector than I think O3 or 4.0 did. And I don't know if anyone has leveraged connectors, but for us, it's been even better because of the ability to, especially on Google Drive, on SharePoint, and what. Yeah.
So I know that in the past you have been hesitant, Karl, in terms of exposing your data to models. And Jennifer in chat is mentioning that data junkyards with not proper security. Well, how do you handle that when you're?
A couple things. What we've done is move a lot of our clients to Teams. And with Teams, and then this is a very specific reason why we want to work in non-tech, traditional industries, but medium-sized businesses. But because we notice the C-suite level is, if they're all in on AI, they will trump IT. They'll be like, literally, I don't care what you say. I want to go AI. Let's move. And that's what we thoroughly enjoy doing is, hey, we got to implement, let's go, rather than, oh, we're going to have to wait 2-3 months. And I was just like, what I don't like to do is take people's money while we're just sitting there. Like, I was like, it's not worth it. We'll cut your contract, because it's like, you guys got to settle that out. And what we want to do is, because we see, sorry, this takes away from GPT-5, but we see you do not have time to walk yourself through this. You maybe have a year, 2 years, because you're going to have an AI native company that's going to wallop you, because they don't need to handhold this. They're literally building this as their business operations. So we can't have you kind of just milling about, because they're going to come in and just start. They have the higher advantage immediately. Like, they don't have to wait, and they don't have and their efficiency level's higher and their headcount's lower. So it's going to be very difficult for you. So that's why it's like, hey, we want to move. And back to the data connectors, as long as you're on Teams, and also thinking about what's the risk tolerance of these CEOs. That's kind of like what we look at too, because we outline, hey, here's the risks, what that could happen. What do you feel about that? Okay. And here's the things, right? And we leave it up to them to make the decision. And sometimes we goes, hey, we want to hold, but a lot of the times in these industries, we got to go. So
when you say Teams, which flavor of Teams is that? Is that an OpenAI Teams account?
Yeah, OpenAI Teams. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I thought you were saying you moved to Microsoft Teams.
No, that is the opposite direction. I would never, ever recommend that to anybody.
That's why the clarification, because we were shocked. You what? Okay.
No. See, no. Let me clarify that. Microsoft Teams is awful. And then we go to ChatGPT Teams. Now, however, just on a note, we still find for specific clients, if they want to push it a little bit further, we'd rather go in Claude, because the MCP capabilities in Claude, even though the data connectors isn't as fine, the MCP capability is so much better that if the company wants to push just a little bit more, they're like, hey, let's move to Claude because there's a lot more flexibility we can do, but you are on bleeding edge, but it could be fun. So we kind of play off that. And again, depending on the company, depending on, their risk tolerance level, like a local government we work with, we'd be like, we wouldn't even present that topic, right? But if it's like a more progressive and aggressive leadership team, that's what we would go with.
Great, thank you. Okay, Andy, do you want to show what you have? Cool.
Yeah. Let's show this. Okay, so when GPT-5 came out, Brian showed a quick little thing that depended on ChatGPT's ability to recall or access the full history of your chats with ChatGPT and do something with it. So I kind of mimicked a thing that he demonstrated very quickly, which is this is 2025 GPT topics that I covered with ChatGPT-5. And so I had to build a little visualization of what those things are in AI research and development, in product development and prompting, in podcast and media projects, which includes the work we do here for the Daily AI Show. And then I also added, I apparently had a number of discussions around AI ethics and societal impacts it represented in my chat history. And what you're seeing on the left-hand side is the little navigator that it built at my direction. In order to make this fairly easy, I can, collapse the children of all the visible clusters. So I'm just looking at the top level of those topics, or I can expand those again. I can deselect any one of these and say, okay, let's take these out of the way, or I can click and select any of these. I also added the ability to, instead of using just this, history as the prompt directed, I can import a JSON taxonomy that it can generate for me on any subject, and I can paste that JSON here. And then that becomes the subject of both this left nav and also the visualization over here, which is kind of, this is, so what, you can move it around a little bit. So then I said, okay, let me try this, not this particular visualization, but I want to try getting ChatGPT-5 to build a much larger taxonomy than this. And I did that using equines and horsemanship. And I'm presenting it here in this UI, which is way too complex. And this navigation is too difficult for something that's a very extensive taxonomy like this. And it's not showing effectively the relationships among these things. It just gets overwhelming. So now I'm going to show you, what I'm moving toward with ChatGPT-5. And you see, I've selected thinking. And this is a very long conversation. You can see this this scroll button is about halfway through this entire thing. And what I did was in order to get that visualization I just showed you, I said, attached, you'll find a draft hierarchical taxonomy of the chapters, topics, subtopics, and content I've collected about equines and horsemanship. The taxonomy is incomplete. You should expand the entries and produce a more complete taxonomy based on your research. For example, there's an entry for a chapter on equine species, but the provided CSV does not enumerate the known equine species. So you expand the rows to include a row for each known equine species. do the same expansion for each chapter to arrive at a more complete listing of topics and subtopics. And then I gave it more examples of what I wanted it to do to flesh out just a sample taxonomy that I provided it. Well, it said shortly after that, after much computation, I mean, literally it took, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to do that. It said, okay, I've done that, and I've completely expanded it, and I've added content for each row, and I've you know, added labels where labels didn't exist, and so on and so forth. And then it provided me with a CSV to download it, and I was very excited because I thought, okay, great, this is exactly the kind of workflow I want, where I can get deep thinking applied to something that I gave it that was incomplete, and I'm going to get a workable CSV that has the full taxonomy in a database format, which is the spreadsheet format. No, the thing that it downloaded didn't have a lot of the things it claimed it did, and it really did add some nodes that were missing basically from the overall taxonomy that I provided, but it was very incomplete, and so it was disappointing. I felt like, okay, I'm going to have to go talk to it. I got to, you know, have a little remedial discussion with GPT-5 about over promising what it has delivered in the form of the CSV download. But then I shifted away from that because I didn't want to spend my time further on that. And I said, okay, you know, that visualization system that you gave me as an HTML file into which I can put a complex taxonomy through a JSON upsert, you give me a completely revised application framework in React.js that will let me do this in a more effective way to navigate a taxonomy. And so it did come up with a really complex and obtuse explanation of what it was going to do. And I said, okay, I don't have time to read through all that. Give me a UI sketch of this, not interactive. Just show me what that's going to look like. And that's what you're looking at right here. This doesn't work. It's just an illustration of what the layout of the navigation is. And it's got some interesting things. It's got an explore mode, a focus mode if you're drilling into one of the areas of the taxonomy, a compare so you can look at two different sides. I don't know if those are effectively implementable, but it's a very interesting thing to be able to work with a model like this and ask it in a sort of staged way to move forward on a navigation and a generation of a completely explorable subject domain, and then have a tool like this that will ultimately be, I think, a component of the Sensei application that I'm building, where if you want to look at the overview of all of the subject matter that's contained in a course, you can get this taxonomy explorer. It'll let you kind of bounce around in there, drill in, and get visualizations and detailed explanations of what all those elements are. So, you know, kind of a meh result for, you know, a couple of hours, but overall, you know, there is a combination of capabilities inside this GPT-5 workspace that is going to be effective, and I will ultimately end up using it, I believe. So
one question for you, Andy. Well, so your Sensei app, have you been exclusively building that in Lovable?
Yes.
Because I honestly think you're more advanced now that I would obviously save it on Git, and I recommend going to Claude Code or Cursor because you have way more control. And I think you'll find it a lot better to work in an IDE than, because I do feel Lovable is there's a certain point you can only do because the way that they set it up.
I get your point entirely, because there's no command line interface.
Exactly.
I can't do anything except through the agents.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's what I would recommend. I would put in Claude Code in Cursor, because or VSC, it doesn't matter. But I think because of like just listening to you explain and then what you're looking to do, I like nearly guarantee you will literally have way better results, and you can probably work faster now. And just, I think you know enough to get you through, and either whether it's through Cursor or Claude Code. I don't know how much you use. You might blow your, but maybe $200 for max just for 1 month is enough for you to finish, or maybe $400 for 2 months would be enough for you to finish. And then, you don't have to pay. But I think like what you'll get and what you're doing. Yeah. I think you've outgrown Lovable already.
Yeah, and the fact that I continue to have to use Gemini 2.5 Pro to guide Lovable says I could easily go to Claude Code, and those aspects that I don't have as a native coding,
yes,
a non-skillful coder. I mean, I understand the principles of it. I understand service architecture, but I don't understand command line code, right? So I could nonetheless get an outboard agent to be supporting me in Cursor using Claude Code. So I know that's there. I just need to find the time to do that transition. There's a switching cost.
You know what? It's actually not as slow as like the learning curve isn't as long as you would think. And it's like the moment you get it, and maybe you spend an hour kind of fidgeting around, but once you hit it, you're like, why did I build on Lovable at all when I'm sitting here and this is the most amazing thing, until you hit Claude's new limit and you're like, God damn, Claude, and you have to put more in the anyway. But I still think you've outgrown what Lovable's designed to do, and I think you're now into, you got to go, if you want to go do that in real vibe coding, like I would say Cursor, Claude Code, and you'll be so much more happier.
Yeah. And it's probably pretty easy to just take my Git, and plug it in, and I'm all, I don't have to rebuild anything. It's just all.
No, you don't. And Claude Code now has like plans, so you can, and same with Cursor. Now you can reference certain things, so ensures that you're just, let's say, I'm only building this feature, or there's just so many more things that Lovable just can't do, and there's a reason for that. But I think,
well, so I think, so I think one of the things that that we're learning for GPT use cases that work is that you need to understand your own level. And if you are starting to become frustrated with ChatGPT and GPT-5, you may be beyond the level, just like Karl just said for Andy, that maybe Lovable is not at his level now. He needs to move up a level. What I will also say is, for all of these things, it's helpful to have two devices. I often have my phone watching my screen so that I can have a conversation with what just happened. I don't use Gemini Live when I'm doing that because that's really limited. But I do, right? Like, oh, okay, I don't know what had just happened. Take the picture. Here we go. Now explain to me what's going on, so that I can have my pair programmer conversing with me while my computer is doing the thing. Okay. Well, I'm going to share quick. Yeah.
One thing, Beth. So I shared for anyone who, because I saw Gwen's comment about like, hey, is this just easy for Karl because he does? I'm like, yes and no. I would highly recommend, and this is a high recommend learning opportunity. I would go to Udemy. There's a link that Beth's going to share that if you want to learn how to do this and not have to go to computer science or learn how to really code, what this course does is it gives you a overview of like tech stack, web dev fundamentals, but then it teaches you, because you understand those fundamentals, then it goes into, hey, how to do it with Cursor, how to do it with Claude Code. Highly recommend you take this. It's about 12 hours, but I don't think it will take you 12 hours. 1.5 speed, you flip through some of the web dev fundamentals and you go into those IDEs. They have a bunch of stuff with Replit and VO, but I think the big key things that you want to take a look at is using Cursor, understanding the SaaS, the tech stack, the web dev fundamentals, and the Claude Code update, and how this person uses it. It's really, really good, because I was just going through, it's like, like, is this a worth course? And then I went through, it's like, this is actually a pretty good comprehensive overview plus actual implementation. So, and I know a couple people have recommended it to me, being like, hey, I know you code, but like, this is what helped me. So I thought it'd just be something to
yeah, I'll check it out.
What Karl is not saying is that his devs sometimes respond back to him like, dude, if you could just spend some hours learning the stuff you're not asking us. All right, I want to share quickly my pitch identification game, which was something that could really help. So this also was coded in a way that, here we go. This was also single shot, like, this is what I want. And then we went back and forth a little bit. This is ear training for about a 5th grade level. And so the first level, we have campfire notes. Can you hear that?
Yeah, what was that?
Okay, so that's starting at C4, right? That's starting at C4.
So,
yes,
so Beth, when you say pitch training, you mean training vocally, not like a deck. Okay.
Sorry,
I was confused for a second.
Sorry, I'm on a tech podcast. Yes, this is ear pitches. So it played C4, bum, 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 bum. So it played C4, E4, G4, A4, and then gave me what I believe is E4. So we're going to come down. And yes, I was right. Look at that. Now, bum, bum, bum. So that's going to be G4, I believe. Yes. It gave me G4 again, but let's just say I missed it. Oh, no, there we go. But now it's giving me, it just went up 1 step. So now I'm at A4. Now it's C4. So there are these kinds of levels that we could go through. We could have different sounds. This is just like quick, easy kind of stuff. I could add a pitch here if I wanted. If I wanted to hear C3, that's what C3 sounds like. So then if I wanted to make sure that I could remember that, I could come back to it. These are the progress that I made last night. And then if I want to see, so let's say, hey, page is unresponsive. That's nice. Don't be unresponsive, please. Yeah, so that's the pitch training game. It works really well after midnight. Again, this is just an HTML file, so it could be loaded. And it actually is pretty helpful. It gets, let me stop sharing. The idea for this was helping people not just understand, be able to train their ear in terms of relative within an octave, but start expanding that so that you could train your ear for upper octaves and lower octaves so that you know where you are, whether you're singing a C4 or a C3 or a C5. And that is the name of our show. Thank you very much.
Karl pointed out that Aman asked a specific question about Gemini compared to ChatGPT-5 now, Gemini Plus versus ChatGPT Plus in order to get access to GPT-5. And I just want to add my point, and then Karl, maybe you have a different perspective on it. But I don't. I use AI Studio. I don't have a paid account with Gemini, but I find Gemini 2.5 Pro to be the best, most articulate, and most thorough understander of all of the issues that I'm facing in code. And so if you're looking at doing vibe coding, I think the Gemini platform is probably perfectly sufficient, and you wouldn't need to pay an additional $20 a month to get any of the features that you see in ChatGPT. But I can't validate that fully because I don't know if they have a similar kind of Canvas presentation in the paid Gemini account. And what I mean by that, Aman, is you see we're building a working application that's on the right-hand side while chatting on the left. That Canvas, I don't know exists, but it probably does. It seems to be the standard UI now for any kind of AI.
And I can confirm that it exists. Okay, the other thing, when you use Gemini Advanced, your stuff is stored in your drive. So things persist for longer. If you generate a file, like if you generate a CSV, as Andy did, it dumps it on your drive. It does not go away after a certain amount of time because it writes it to your storage. That's how all of the uploads work.
Karl,
that's not true for AI. That's not true for AI Studio. That's true when you have an account with Gemini Advanced.
When you have a paid account, yeah. Karl, do you have any comment on Gemini? Have you guys played with it at all?
Yes, we have until September 7th a Ultra account, more so for VOC.
We do. That's right. I keep forgetting that we do.
Well, yeah, and then we kind of got one too because we wanted to create more videos. But then after that, I was like, well, we don't really use it for anything else because it's mostly Claude and ChatGPT, and it's more so because that's where our clients are using, so it's easy to kind of like transfer. And I do notice with Gemini, I think I would need to be in it a lot more to do a lot of the stuff, but like, so I'm already starting to think too, it also depends on your use case, what you're planning to do with it. Because if generally most of these models, unless you're a power user, you can get generally everything with any of these models. They're good enough. Like for the benchmarking perspective, I can't even trust that anymore because they're all kind of generally at the same level, plus minus whatever percentage. But certain models are better for things than others, like Claude Code. I would definitely go there, although you got to try GPT-5 with some coding. And then I think for image generation, again, depends on, I think Google and ChatGPT are both amazing at it. If you use voice a lot, then I would go with ChatGPT. But if you're just using it on a general level, then pick which one feels good to you and just kind of stick with that, because eventually all of them will get all the same features and stuff anyway.
Yeah,
right.
There's convergence in capability.
One of the advantages of Gemini and Google is that if you find yourself needing more storage and you upgrade your storage for Daily AI Show, we have a 5 terabyte plan because we create videos every freaking day. We have Gemini Advanced because of the level of Google Drive we have. So that might be something to look into. And then it includes the upgraded Notebook LM and lots of other stuff. Yeah. Okay, so that is our show today. There is no sci-fi show this afternoon. We hope that you have excellent weekends. Go continue the conversation in our community, which is the Daily AI Show community.com. The newsletter will come out this weekend. You can sign up for that at thedailyAIshow.com. If you have successes that you are using GPT-5 for, or things that you would absolutely don't use GPT-5 for, which is kind of what this show was about, go ahead and pop those in the community too. Thanks. And we'll see y'all next week.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.